Shalom, Chabarim, Shalom. Greetings, brothers and sisters. Yes, this is a new 7, this Shabua, the Torah portion, Aweh et Hanan Lemenhu, the 45th Torah portion reading and feeding. I'm going to touch on a couple of talking points for this sabbatical, for this Shabua, for this 7, for this week right here. Some of the talking points, and continue with some of the reasonings from the previous sabbatical, from 44, where we began Debarim, the 5th book of Moses, the 5th book in I revolution, the real revolution of the time, the appointed times and seasons, and the reading and feedings from Jalor, from the Torah, for the Rastafari, the disciples and the discipleship, and also tune into Discipleship Radio, brothers and sisters. If you could check out the previous After the Shabbat broadcast for Rastafari Sabbath study, number 44. It's on the Blog Talk Radio. Discipleship Radio is our channel right there. The last O in radio is a 0. So just to get our specific name, the way it's spelled, so you can go look it up on Discipleship Radio. But go to the RastafariGroundation.com site, I Grace Book, on the internet for the links and the Wendemotes, the brothers, and also, a lot of information is there. A lot of links are there, brothers and sisters, and usually we put up the links over there. You can get our regular broadcast season to tune into the radio broadcast. Looking forward to Testify Tuesday. I know that's a lot right here, especially in this particular video, but I think that it's always good just to remind ones and ones how they can link with I, how they can stay on top of the broadcast and the podcast. And if they miss a particular broadcast or podcast, there's a lot of co-laborers out there, and even more coming on board. And we greet thee, Shalom, Yeshua Shalom, Awo, Amen. Now, right here, we're going to, like I said, a few talking points right here. Got a couple of things to, address, follow up on as well. So we're going to try to really hit this out, in the next series right here. Now, you see the picture that's there. This is, I think one of the pictures either concerning the arrest, but definitely concerning the conspiracy against the conquering line of the tribe of Judah, the root of David, Haile Selassie first, who has prevailed to open the book and loose the 7 seals thereof, the King of Kings of Ethiopia, the true King of Israel. Kamanim burwoim work woim lips al temenyahum. I have coveted no man's silver or gold or apparel. So why did they arrest him like a criminal? Why did they fight against him and conspire against him as they did against Christ, as they did against the Messiah, the Moshiach Yeshua? Well, the book reveals the truth in spirit, So here we're going to get into the historical aspect, because God and history will judge, right? That's what I, Abba Father, that's what the words he spoke to the nations that were gathered together. His determination was to gather the nations. Zephaniah brings out that prophetic word, and we see the League of Nations. We see His Majesty standing up before the League of Nations, testifying against him and prophesizing against him, and that word of prophecy coming to pass. But there's more words of prophecy which are coming to pass, many which have already come to pass, and those which are to come to pass. But in the present time, in this half an hour, the ending of this half an hour space is 41 years since 74 and 75, 1975. It's very important that we follow up. And now we're seeing more information actually becoming available. So we have to really, as they say, we have to hop on it. We have to seize the opportunity, carpe diem, have to seize the day. Have to, take the means, the motive, and the opportunity to get this word out there and to preach and to teach the good news of the King of Kings in Christ. Because, this gospel, this true good news of the kingdom shall be preached in all the world, and then the end. So as we preach the good news of the King of Kings, as we put forward, gospel, the gospel of the King of Kings and his Christ, it brings to pass the fulfillment of the ages. I and I have the handle, make Babylon take the blade, and all the enemies who want to be down with Babylon, let them go down, because Babylon is fallen, and the truth is risen. Even though it's crushed down to the earth, it shall rise up again. So right here, that's already like 5 minutes or so into this particular vid. And so hopefully we'll be able to, get right into the subject matters that we have coming forward. And right here, this is a little something on the revolution, the so-called Ethiopian revolution. A lot of people are confused about who's who, what's what, and how such and such things started. Well, right here, we came across another bit of information here. We had pointed it out earlier, I think in the broadcast, a few broadcasts where the matter had come up concerning, the Ethiopian revolution and what has been reported and what's popularly believed to have happened. And there's a lot of disinformation. There's a lot of competing stories out there. That tells us something. That tells us that way. Why there's so many competing stories out there. These are not the stories Rastaman is making up. It's not I and I making up these stories. This is what Babylon has put out. This is what many careless Ethiopians have put out. It's what many bad Samaritans, blind black Hebrew Israelites also have put this out. I and I own so-called people, right? The sheeple and the goat people. But be that as it may, right, make I and I come forward right here and bring this forward. Who started the Ethiopian revolution? Let's just ask that question straight up. Who started it? Right? Most would think that it was the students. You hear these stories out there that it was the students that were protesting. Others say it was the army or the military that was protesting. Others say that it was somebody else that was protesting or whatever. But really, the ones who started Ishmael. Yeah, Ishmael started. What do we mean by Ishmael? The Mohammedans, the Muslims, right? The Ethiopian revolution, right, of 1974-75. Really the godless and creeping coup. That's what it was. It was an antichrist coup, right? The antichrist coup was started by the Mohammedans, by the so-called Muslims, the Ethiopian Muslims. Right? The Muslims started the revolution. They started the Antichrist revolution. And this is so key and significant as we are putting the facts and the evidence, right, into the proper historical and chronological line, as we're sorting through all these stories, as we're sorting through all the disinfo, as we're sorting through the COINTELPRO. This is what this is all about. Behind all of this is the this is the epicenter. This is what a lot of folks don't recognize, that the so-called Ethiopian revolution, or the creeping coup against His Imperial Majesty Haile Selassie I, the conquering lion of the tribe of Judah, that's the epicenter of COINTELPRO. That's the epicenter. That's the center. Right? That's where the stone, when you drop a stone in like a pond, right? And you might see the waves ripple, but it's where the stone hit the water. That's where the epicenter, that's where the main force that has caused the ripples. So people can see the ripples. We're even seeing ripples even down to this very day. But the question is, what started the ripples and the waves? What started the waves? Right? What was the epicenter? All right, so getting to the epicenter of the creeping coup against the conquering line of the tribe of Judah, the creeping coup against the root of David, the creeping coup against the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords, it was Ishmael, right? It was the Mohammedans, right? The so-called Muslims that started it. Now, see, this is very significant because we're going to see some pictures here. Let's bring up this picture right here so one can see this right here. This is one of the pictures. We got a website, and we also got a couple other bits and pieces of information as we are like assembling and gathering this. Right now, you see front and center. This is good because some of them are Bamarinya, like Nick Efeita, Mike Ebel Mengista, Zesiketa, Yesowum. I think it's faded out, one of the signs there. Then you have the next one on the side. Balmarinya, Islamawi, Be'alet, is it Be'alet? Be'alet, Behrawi, Be'alet, Yuhunu. Okay, yeah. But you see the one in the English? Let's start with the English first. It says, Ethiopia is not a Christian, a Christ-ian island. We too are Ethiopians. You see that right there? It says, Ethiopia is not a Christian island. Whoa. What is all that about? You know, someone say, well, maybe it's because they want to be included and they've been discluded. Nah, that's not what it was about. You see, these Ethiopian Muslim niggas were following the pale red face Arabs. They were following that pale red, the Arabism that was going on at the time back from the 60s to the early 70s. See, here's where history, right, the half of the story, here's where history is so very, very important. In fact, let's go over here. This is another page right here that we have come across right here in our early morning intel gathering, seeing what's going on, following up on certain things. So this is on a site called EthioMuslimsMedia.com, right? EthioMuslimsMedia.com. And they have this particular story right here. I think this was posted March 16, 2015 by Ethio 2012 right here. Ethiopia will Muslim, right? Mebte Kala Kabarika in name. Okay, they're trying to say that their rights were not being observed. There's false propaganda which was being put out then, just like the false propaganda which is being put out now. You see, when we talk about the condition of black folks, and almost like black folks being the originator, but somehow something has happened where it's like, you know, the head is the tail and the tail is the head, so to speak. So you have a lot of these indigenous Muslims, black Ethiopian Muslims, right, which are being remote controlled like they were then, but even more so now by the pale red, Arab influence. And you can see this also creeping in within the consciousness community even today. Right, even in the conscious community today, some of the Basim controversies with the HOK, House of Conscience, you know, that's out there too. But we're not going to get into that just yet, right? But this is our groundation. This is the ground that we really need to survey. Right. So Ethiopian Muslims, the struggle, they say right down here at the bottom, caption on the picture says started in 1974 and continued until today. It continued or it continues. I wish it did continue until that day. What day was that? March 16, 2015, and let it be done. Right. But it's not done. Right. It's not done. Enough of it is only the beginning. Right. Yeah, let's see. It says 50 years after Selma, whiteness still reigns supreme. They say this is Ethiopia, 50 years after Selma. But then if we look at who are these so-called Mohammedans following, right? Who are they following? I mean, is it really indigenous Islam? Is it really the true Islam? Or is it these pale red Arabs? All right, these pale red Arabs, these racists, they're really racist Arabs. But see, they've gotten themselves into a situation now where they're being more pragmatic. They're reaching out to the blacks and to black Muslims. We see it within the House of Consciousness and within the so-called black consciousness community. But it's a trick. It is a trick. All right, it is a trick. All right, there's a video that really can put it more together for the eye them until we can bring out a little bit more on it. But we're putting forward that the Ethiopian, the coup, right, was called the Ethiopian Revolution or the coup, right, the creeping coup in Ethiopia from 74, starting in the early part of 74, was started by the Arabs, the pale Arabs and their agents in Ethiopia, many of the so-called Muslims, right? The Muslims in Ethiopia. You can see this little clip right here. And you know, it's very interesting. A lot of times they don't really give you all the details. I've noticed that, you know, but little by little, I think they're getting more and more confident. But some of the information, as you can see right here in this article, is in Amharic. So we're going to have to seek to go through it, you know, and, you know, to share significant, you know, aspects of it, because a lot of it is still a kind of an internal story, because they have not been successful in their conspiracy. This is basically a carry on from the Lijasu days. Right. In fact, the Ethiopian Muslims is a carry on from the Lijasu days. And here's the thing about it. When we talk about the ungratefulness, right, the ingratefulness, but in a sense, it's the same thing that happens in the West with Islam and the Mohammedans, and some of that is going on in the politics with Trump, where he says about, you know, screening and not allowing certain Arabs or Muslims to come in the country. You can see it over in Europe. You can see it even in America, ones coming in as refugees, and then they want to overturn your whole system. That's what was going on then. You see what I'm saying? But because the East is separated from the West, you know, people say, oh, that's that stuff going on over there. And they don't recognize when ones come to America, a lot of them are coming with this so-called radical Islamic philosophy, right? Or taqiyya. Right? Taqiyya. That's like waging war by deception. In other words, you come in as a refugee, right? In other words, imagine this. I come to your house as a refugee. Now you feel sorry for me. So I come to your house as a refugee. So you let me into your house as a refugee. I live there a while. I'm weak. I'm persecuted. I don't got much, but I build up. I start to eat. I start to eat in your house, you know, I start to get strong in your house. I start to procreate in your house. I'm having children. And because in my religion, I have more than one woman, right? So I'm having more and more children. You a Christian. So you believe in monogamy, right? So you only having monogamy level children, little by little, you know, maybe you get twins or triplets or something like that, you know, God bless you. But since my religion tells me I can have up to 4 women, right, that allows me and my people in your house eating off of you. Get this right here. Eating off of you, right? Eating off of you. Right? Living off of you. Remember, I came in as a refugee. Right? We're speaking about how did Islam, right, or Mohammedanism, how did it come to Ethiopia to begin with? So you see, we have to keep that in context when we're looking at the claims of both the Ethiopian Muslims from 74, 75, who really kicked off the revolution or the coup with that false propaganda. Even His Majesty speaks about false propaganda in the selected speeches. We brought that out before, right? But now how does that affect the global situation? See, a lot of people don't see what the big effect with the global situation, but it was the Ethiopian Muslims who started the coup against Selassie, against His Majesty. They started the coup. They started the revolution, right? They started this, right? Now people say, well, how were they able to start this? How were they able to do this? Well, you know, there's a lot of details right there. Let's go over here, see if we can get into this. Like I say, we want this to be a power of a nightmare. Let's see if we can go to Power of a Nightmare. You need to check out Power of a Nightmare. It's a 4-part series. And this 4-part series really brings into effect what the real agenda behind, you know, all the fear-seeming things. A lot of people just look at the news, and they'll look at a couple of representatives say things, and they might say, oh, you know what, I support them. Yeah, I'm for that. You know, that's Taqiyya. All right, Taqiyya. They'll tell you what you want to hear or what is pleasing to your ear. You have to read and research what their agenda is. You got to know what their agenda is. Right? What is their agenda? Now, someone say, is this against Muslims? This is not against Muslims, but you got to know your place. Listen. Muslims came into Ethiopia as refugees. They were given a right to practice their religion, You know what I mean? They were given right to live and practice their religion. Others have been allowed since such a time to come into Ethiopia, to thrive from Ethiopia, so forth and so on. But it's not just about that. It was about the so-called caliphate. It was about this setting up of some Islamic kingdom, Ishmael kingdom, so forth and so on. That's what it was about. This one's saying that Ethiopia is not a Christian island. We too are Ethiopians. Yes, y'all too are Ethiopians, but it is a Christian island. It was a Christian island when your Muslim forebearers came to the Christian King of Kings, the Negus, or you'll say the Najashi, right? And asked for refuge from your enemies, who were these same pale red Arabs that have put a power pack on your back, right? And sent you against your benefactor to bite the hand that feeds you. And now you're in a very dangerous position. You're in a very dangerous condition, because sooner or later, everyone is going to remember, wait, hold on for a moment. Ethiopia is a Judeo-Christian country. It was a Judeo-Christian island when the first Mohammedans or Muslims, the Sahaba of the Prophet Muhammad, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, came in to Ethiopia. So how is it now that you want to control the government? That's what it was. It wasn't that these Ethiopian Muslims were being denied their rights to practice their religion and to live, and were being beat up or assaulted because they were Islamic or Mohammedans, or they worship Allah. So be it. That was it. They wanted to control the government. They wanted to overturn the government, because those who put the power pack in their backs were the so-called pale, red, white Arabs. The same ones today who are shaking up so much of not just the Middle East. You see, this is how it started. It really started here. What we're facing in the world and globally, right, with this Islamic and Islamo-Fascism and so forth and so on, and terrorism. See, a lot of Takia is being played. Takia is like deception. It's a way of them disguising what their real agenda is. Right? You know what the real agenda is. It used to be said that the best Muslim, right, was one who was an ignorant Muslim, who really did not know what was really in their teaching. Right? If you really study and find out what really is in their teaching. See, some people think it's just about, it's just a matter of they just want their rights to be a Muslim and be an Ethiopian. Nobody denied them their rights. They wanted to put their Islamic and Mohammedan, the pale red Arabs wanted to get their hands on the government. This is why they say the struggle still continues to this day. Right? No one denies them the right to practice, right, their religion. Right? That's not the complaint. Though they might make you believe in Takia, they might make you believe this is it. Let's go right here. Here it goes. You got to check out this documentary right here. It's called The Power of Nightmares. Right? The Power of Nightmares. It discusses fundamental Islam and neoconservatism. Right. The filmmaker Adam Curtis, he asserts that the two of these, fundamental Islam and this neoconservatism, have more in common than one might think. Right. In this particular documentary over here, we have read some of the information right here. You can see there's a wiki page right here. There's a wiki page. You can check out more on it, but just a little bit right here. Curtis compares the outlooks of American academic Leo Strauss and Egyptian civil servant Sayyid Qutb, each of whom rebelled against American individualism to form their respective movements. Their shared message is that fear unites, be it during the Cold War or today's war on terror. Now, where did the Cold War start? The Cold War started from the coup against His Imperial Majesty. There's Sayyid Qutb, I think Qutb, Q-U, we say Qutb, but they say Qutb, right? This is him right here. Let's just save this right here, right? And I'm not too sure whether a lot of the Ethiopians really, really, like the Muslims really understand this. I'm not too sure, because a lot of ones don't really understand the history behind these things. You know, ones don't really understand the history. They barely understand what's going on presently. And part of the reason why ones don't understand what's going on presently is because ones don't understand history, right? They said if you don't know history, you are doomed, right, to repeat it, but also pay a heavier price. Okay, hold on for a moment. Just tagging up the picture right here. So this right here, yeah, Power of Nightmares. That's Saeed Qutb right there, right? That's Saeed Qutb right there. This is him, right? That's him right there, right? He is really you could say the engineer, right? He is the engineer of this modern radical Islamic agenda that is not just limited, you know, to 9/11. You see, 9/11, September 11th was Ethiopia's New Year. How interesting is that? Do you think that's just a coincidence that 9/11 was Ethiopia's New Year? You see the significance of Ethiopia in the equation. This is what this was about right here. That's what that was about. This documentary, we cannot highly enough recommend it. And this is the guy that created this philosophy, kind of a mix. It's actually like a mix of Arab nationalism, right? A mix of Arab nationalism along with Islamic radicalization. It's these two that are actually mixed together. A lot of people really don't understand that. They might think it's just a religious thing. The Mohammedan thing is a religious thing. No, it has a lot to do with nationalism, with Arab nationalism, Arab people, and nowadays the majority of the movement is being led by the pale red white Arabs, by these same white Arabs who within their own Arabism and Islamicism discriminate against black people. Of course, you're going to have a lot of black Muslims say, oh no, they don't discriminate against me, so forth and so on. All right. You know, but do your own study, do your own research. All right. So he has a lot to do with it. This is a good picture right here. So Ethiopia had to be taken out of the way, right, in order for the mystery of iniquity, right, to really rise up in the world as it has risen even to the present. The Christian, the Solomonic Judeo, the King of Kings, in other words, had to be taken out of the way. This is what Thessalonians is speaking about. Only he who led until he's taken out of the way. With Ethiopia, right, out of the way, with that Solomonic Davidic throne compromised and out of the way, that allowed for both the Cold War on one hand, right, as well as for really the whole the geopolitical breakdown over the past 40 something years. And now is a time of reckoning. This is why the whole geopolitical situation is so touchy, right? Because now is a time of reckoning. In other words, some things have run their course, right? And there's a time of reckoning. There's a time of judgment. Even more ones hopefully will be able to really see how this connects with that. You know, how the Ethiopian revolution, right, or the coup, we like to call it the coup. It was actually, some people call it revolution, but things didn't get much better for anybody. It was a pseudo revolution. It was a creeping coup, right? It was an antichrist coup. It was part of the whole antichrist satanic agenda. You could see the guy in the front with the sign, Ethiopia is not a Christian island. We too are Ethiopians, giving people the impression, right, that ones did not recognize you're Ethiopian. But since you are holding to Islam, right, look at the history of Islam in Ethiopia, and you will recognize that when the first Muslims came to Ethiopia, they came there as refugees seeking protection. and seeking freedom of religion, and they were given that. But now, or at least from 74 to the present time, many of them wanted to take over the government. They wanted to put their hands on the government. See, in this case, there's a separation between their church or their religion and the state. See, the state was governed, right, by that Hebrew establishment, right, by that Judeo-Christian establishment. But these guys, the Arabs, the pale red Arabs, when they started to get all that oil money that the Saudis, whatever, they started to buy these guys off, put power packs in their back. And this was the first, how you could say, major, manifestation. And also we could say the first success, so to speak, of their godless and creeping coup. When we say the godless, when ones who say that there's no God, but there's God. Come on now. Which one is it? Anyway, we're not going to get all into that right here, right now. Just putting a little bit of this forward. Of course, we're going to address that there as well, brothers and sisters. So who caused, right? Who started the revolution? It was the Muslims, right? The Ethiopian revolution and the power of nightmares. I think this is how we're going to put this one forward. The Ethiopian revolution, the power of nightmares, right? As kind of an initial, we're still getting certain things together. And we did say that we're going to have a couple of talking points, a couple of things we want to follow up on in a couple of shorter videos. This all has already been like a half an hour, a little bit longer than we really intended it to be. But so that ones will recognize the half of the story, right, of our story, our narrative that has not been told. Oh, amen. Shalom, Chaverim. Shalom, shalom, brothers